Okay, so I'm getting really annoyed with myself because I keep making these really super long video reviews and I can't figure out how or why they're ending up so long. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing differently. Maybe you guys can tell me. Anyways, yes, I've made another two-part video review. The first video will be detailing the modes, the transformations, the gimmicks, blah 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 blah. The second video will be the conclusions and my 2 cents. Make sure that you watch both videos because they are meant to be watched together. The DX Samurai Kyojin Daikai-Oh set comes with the Ebi Disc, which features the head and claws, opening and closing, of the Ebi Origami. Now the Ebi Disc, unless I'm much mistaken, is fairly unique. I don't think it's the only one of its kind, but it's fairly unique, and that it's the only hidden disc that I'm aware of that has 2 sides to it. But as far as the Ebi Disc itself is concerned, you're just supposed to worry about this side, okay? And when you plug the Ebi Disc into the Shinken-maru, you get this. The sound of a monkey for a lobster. Okay. So there's that. And yes, of course, you can also attach the Ebi Disc to the Sakana-maru, although it won't do you much good to do that. Enough out of you. And so that is it for the Ebi Disc. If I could describe the Ebi Origami in one word, and in my opinion I would actually need more than one word, it would be huge. Over 18 inches long. Careful, watch your fingers. Even if you extend, ooh, don't grab it there, or collapse the tail down that little bit, it's easily the size of a real lobster. Which is rare in Super Sentai, because you rarely get 1/1 scale, or you rarely get animal mecha that are scaled to their real animal equivalents. That doesn't happen very often, but in this case, I think it did. Actually, I think there are some real lobsters out there that might be bigger. Whew! Over 18 inches long. Unlike the Kabuto, Kajiki, Tora, and Ika Origami, the Ebi Origami has a tendency to get away with the fact that it doesn't transform like an actual origami, folding paper, but especially on the head here, it absolutely rocks the look of origami. Very nice pattern on the top there. I also like how they've very carefully integrated both orange plastic and gold paint. There is a lot of paint on this thing. I'm really, really surprised about that. And it's not just, a little thing here and a little thing over here, but there are very large sections here dedicated to nothing but gold paint. And even a little bit of blue here and there. It happens. Although you can definitely tell when they're painting on top of orange plastic and when they're painting on top of gold or blue plastic. You can definitely tell the difference. The tail is quite nice as well. Even on the bottom, this guy has nice detailing to him. Oftentimes, it's the areas that you don't see very often that get detailing that are really nice to have. All legs are made of PVC, as well as the antennae up here, at least from here to here, it's PVC, the rest is ABS. This one, unfortunately, I can't decide if this is a quality control problem or if, it's just the way it came packaged in the box, or I'm not sure. But I haven't seen many others like that, so it may just be mine. One problem that a lot of people have complained about with the Ebi Origami is that it is not easy to balance. It can balance, but it tips over quite easily. And unfortunately, the legs, the front ones here, if you push them down, careful, don't put pressure there. Then you're just putting stress on the legs, and eventually they'll become deformed. And you can't put these down because, well, you could, but these are going to become deformed as well. So, and unfortunately, the tail is not wide enough in the areas it needs to be wide enough to create a proper tripod effect. So, unfortunately, yeah, the Ebi Origami has a tendency to fall over really easily. Posability is as follows. I've already shown you kind of sort of this. Wide range motion, ratchets every 45 degrees, which is nice. 45 degrees, 45, all the way around. The shoulder joints are not quite as tight as I would like them to be, especially because it can't really compensate for the extra weight that sits on the front, or, that sits further away from the joint. Those aren't quite as tight as I would like, but they do for the rest of the other modes. So anyways, you got this. Because of transformation, you can turn those out, but I don't think that really works very much. And then you have claws which open up that far. It'll actually hold there, but it actually ratchets there. And so, and the antenna do not turn this direction. They don't turn that way. But because of how they change, you can bend them along that joint right there. And so that, bad angle. Oh, I forgot. See, I told you that was real loose. Yes, you can also ratchet the tail like this. And in a strange twist of luck or fate or I don't know what, because of the transformation, you can actually turn the tail side to side just a little bit. But still, nice to have that there. That is it for the Ebi Origami. Okay, let's get into some special features. You can open up the claw there, either side, and you can use any heat-in disc that you want to. I'm using the Shishi disc because I don't have the Sushi disc. Thank goodness, I suppose. And you can snap it in this way, or this way. You can snap it in either way, and it'll actually hold on to it. And you can actually do the same with both sides. However, if you paid attention to those video clips I just played, you can actually turn the heat-in disc. I better hang on to that shoulder joint before it collapses on me. Yes, you can turn the heat-in disc. Now, you cannot just turn it like this, because eventually you're going to turn it hard enough and it will pop off, okay? And you also cannot turn it with the claw closed. But know that that is a feature that you can use, okay? So, that's cool. And the other major gimmick with this toy is the electronic light and sound feature. The first one to appear in the DX Origami line. To get things started, we're going to pop this open. That shoulder joint is really loose. The LR44 battery compartment sits right here. Make sure you pull the tag when you get it out of the box. And see this arrow right here, this little red colored arrow, okay? By the way, there is also detail along the inside here as well. I like how it's kind of a compass looking thing. Get to that in a moment. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to take this arrow and you're going to match it up with the red arrow on the provided Ebi disc, which is right there. It's not a difficult thing to do because this heat-in disc, let me empty my other hand first because I need both hands to demonstrate this. You will notice there is a notch right there where that arrow is, and that notch matches up perfectly with the notch right there. So it's basically impossible to put this thing on here and not get it right because, well, it won't let you put it on any other way. So you put that in there, done. On-off switch is here. It's actually kind of hard to get to that switch. The activation button is here. That is the Ebi Origami itself, the claws, Now right there you've noticed there are actually two differently pitched versions of the claws opening and closing. There's also two different versions of the Ebi Origami chirping, calling, screeching. What do you call that? I don't know. What is that? I don't know. So anyways, there's 4 sound effects in this mode only. Holding it down gets you, well, gets you nothing. Speaker is right there. And no, you can only see the light from right here. This does not light up, and no light shows from here. Sounds kind of weird. And by the way, all those sounds play randomly. So sometimes you'll hear the Ebi Origami twice in a row. Sometimes you'll hear the Ebi, then the claws, then the Ebi again. It just goes back and forth. And it does not depend on which way the Ebi disc is pointed. So that is it for the light and sound and claw feature of the Ebi Origami. Now, let's get this thing transformed. So, to get started, little thing. And for my own peace of mind, careful, watch your fingers. We're going to flip this all the way around until it snaps in place. Likewise. And I'll flip that around. With the tail, take it off. Going to that. It's a little confusing the first few times because you have to turn it up, twist, pull out, and it's just kind of weird. But the last thing you have to deal with the legs is turn the feet around 180. It's kind of strange, but it is a noticeable difference, I assure you. I'm going to lift up these, stick the tail on his tail, conveniently. And then lastly, we're going to remove that. Set this down for a moment. Take these apart, and you will notice on the lobster legs here and here, they are different. They correspond with this going here, snaps into place. You notice this one doesn't have a tab, but it does have a slot. Snap that into there. And there you have the Samurai Kyojin Daikai-Oh. Because the transformation into Daikai-Oh is so simple, you've already seen majority of the details that happen with the Daikai-Oh. They're just rearranged in a different fashion, that's all. One detail I'm not clear about, though, and I've watched more than a few episodes with the Daikai-Oh in it. What are these for? Because Plex never leaves anything unanswered. What are these things? They're pretty prominent. Even in the show they're there, but maybe I've just not seen the episode that they're used in, but they're not used for any other transformation process beyond Daikai-Oh, and there are a few transformations after this, which I'll be getting to later. But anyways, what is that for? Looks like a cannon to me. I don't know. There aren't many shooting weapons in the origami line, but again, simplistic detail there. It's really easy to grab onto this guy and set off the sound effect with that button, so just know that it's there. And the on-off switch again is there. I'm actually surprised how well those legs work. It even has little booted heels on it. Heel boots? Something like that. Well, the legs are really narrow, though, so that's kind of disconcerting. By the way, do not at any time hang on to the Daikai-Oh. Ooh, don't grab it there! On the legs, because it will do that. It's supposed to do that, just not yet. So never ever hang on to it by the legs, okay? You can see the joint right there. And for posability, I mean, the standard with Super Sentai ratchet every 45 degrees, okay? And like I said, we already went over that. That's the only official posability. However, conveniently, because of the transformation, you can turn the legs out and in. So that's nice. But turning these, and if you think you'll be able to get some toe articulation, sorry to disappoint, but that's just not going to happen because it tilts it at too weird an angle. Let me try it from this side. It tilts it at too weird an angle. You can't really pose with it, so don't even try. It's just too unstable. Now let's look at the back. The lobster leg cape, as I call it, cloak, cape. It'd be a cape because a cloak would cover the whole thing. Yeah, I've got more detailed pictures on CollectionDX.com. Pretty nice, actually. Careful, don't put pressure there. This actually is one of my favorite features, right? The way it spreads out like that. Maybe I should save that for the commentary. So that is the walk around for Daikai-Oh. Careful, don't put pressure there. The Daikai-Oh special feature is that it can mode change. And it does this by swapping heads. Now this is the default position for Daikai-Oh, which is known as Daikai-Oh Higashi. Each of the names that you'll be hearing out of this toy is actually one of the compass directions, north, south, east, west. Those are the compass directions. Each one of the heads has a stylized, just as the Shinkenger have a stylized kanji on their faces, on the face of their helmets, Daikai-Oh has the exact same thing up here on its forehead, and each one is a stylized version of the compass direction. So I don't remember them exactly off the top of my head, but Higashi, I think, means east. So this is the default configuration for Daikai-Oh Higashi. It's just standard blah 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 blah. So what's distinct about this one, aside from the fact that it usually changes into this position first, is that it has use of the lobster claws. By the way, look how tiny those arms are without those claws in position. You know, if you just ignore it, those claws add a lot of bulk to the arms. It's really surprising. Ava, you should have saved that for the commentary. Well, I'm too far into it now. I'm not going to restart the shooting. So anyways, it has use of the claws, you know, and it can use them however they like. I don't think that it uses the Hiden Disc attack with Higashi. But anyways, each mode also has a unique sound effect. You press once, you get... And that's it. That's it for Higashi. And we'll go to the next one. But first, we have to disconnect this, flip these around, make sure that the head is on the inner side, right there. It doesn't, I mean, the toy doesn't distinguish, but this is how it's done in the show. And then we are going to and this is Daikai-Oh Minami, which is the dual sword wielding mode of Daikai-Oh. In other words, it can only wield the lobster swords when it's in Minami mode. Minami? Minimi? Minimi? I don't know. So that's that. For the next mode, we are going to take these off, restore them to the back. Usually doesn't give me much trouble. And then you're going to lift up its skirts a little bit here so that you can remove a piece of its skirt. Oh look, he's got a little tail there. Aww. Lol, I suppose. You're going to take his tail, which has a peg, small rectangular peg right there. Peg it into either hand, but typically held in the right hand. And then you're going to fold these all the way back, as far as they can go. Yeah, that's a problem with mine. And then you're going to... This is Daikai-Oh Nishi. And this is actually a defensive only mode, which means it doesn't have any special attack to itself. But it does still have 2 unique sound effects to itself. I don't know why this one has 2 sound effects all to itself, but it does. So put this back here. You don't have to lift up the lobster leg cape, but it helps to sometimes. I'm going to put these back up. Actually, I'm going to leave this down. And I'm going to have to go and get the Samurai Gatai Series number 4 Ika Origami, because Daikai-Oh's 4th mode actually requires the use of the Ika Origami. Yeah, the toy, okay, not so much, but, you know, this is what it's for. Here's how this works. Separate this, flatten that out. I'm going to put it like this, snap these together, open these if you haven't already, and pull this out. Going to take that hole right there and put it over that peg right there. Raise the bunny ears back up. Make sure they are snapped in place. That obviously will go there. And then finally, we're going to do this. And there you have, well, it's one of 2 names. It's either Daikai-Oh Kita or Ika Daikai-Oh. You can actually do that either way. Now, unfortunately, because of how weak those shoulder joints are that I've been complaining about all this time, yeah, it can't hang on to that very easily. And the Ika Origami does not slip past the legs very easily. So, yeah, whatever. You can still, however, activate this if you want to. That's actually part of its special attack feature. But wait, there's more. And those 3 sound effects just repeat over and over and over. But all 3 of them end the same way. Is it just me, or do those 3 special attacks actually sound an awful lot like they belong to the other 3 compass modes? I'm not sure, because maybe I haven't seen enough of the show, but I keep saying that. Yes, I keep saying that, but yes, even after 2 years, I still haven't finished Shinkenger. That's by choice, but that's another topic for another time. There's something else I want to mention, and that is posability is actually quite restricted. Well, quite, right. You can fold the arm back a little bit, you know, as that will, but you can actually do that. I don't know why it is that this thing can rotate, because it doesn't do it in the show. I mean, it actually can. I don't know why, but it actually does lightly ratchet into those different positions. But, yeah, you can only get both arms up at the same time that far. I think I'll just leave it this way. And so that is it for the 4 modes of the Daikai-Oh. Holy crap, the Daikai-Oh is really wide. I guess that Japanese Great Sea King is getting pretty fat on his throne, isn't he? Now, is it just me, or do these 2 pull an O Ranger? In order to start the transformation sequence into Daikai Shinken-Oh, they both raise their fists, meet together, and then they go back to this. Anybody else think that looks a little familiar? They do a fist bump. You have to wonder if the Shinken-Oh ever worries about getting helmet hair. Just because with just about every single combination, you have to take that helmet off. It's really strange. This time, however, we get to do a couple of different things. And we're going to want to just a little, and then put it back. Careful, watch your fingers. And do this. Doesn't matter if this wiggles, it's supposed to do that. Pull this off. And this. And we're good to go. Going to remove all the weapons. We're going to carefully pick where I'm going to grab. And pull that whole thing apart. And you're just going to leave this the way it is. No changes happen here. I hereby dub thee at-O. Nah, that's actually kind of funny. Now I'm going to take this apart. And we're going to do something a little tricky with the legs here. So long as you keep this gold part facing towards you, you should be able to remember it. So you're going to flip this around. This goes down like this. Same thing here. Gold part faces forward. It's a little tricky the first few times, but once you get it, you totally get it. The difficult part is remembering which one goes on which side. But again, keep the gold facing forward and you'll be good. Then we're going to plug the extended legs into here, like so. And you will notice on the back of the torso of Daikai-Oh, transparent tab there and there. They're spring-loaded. I'm going to plug into the holes here and here, like so. And then while we're in the area, we're going to take this, plug it right there. Quickly reconvert the lobster swords, like that. Something I forgot to mention earlier, we need to turn the Kame and Saru origami so that their faces are flush with that of the Shishi origami. Then you take the lobster swords with the clean blade facing outwards. And for some reason, the Saru origami on mine does not like hanging on to anything other than the Dai Shinken, because it is really difficult to get the lobster swords either in or out of there. But the end result, regardless, is that the swords are supposed to point awkwardly out like this. Now we're going to take care of the leg assembly. These are going to go back 1, 2, 3 positions. And there is a space that's provided for getting the face out. It's just, you have to use friction only in order to do it. And there we go. Anyways, that's the end result of that. And what you want to do is plug no less than 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs into the top here. Careful, watch your fingers. Which is a very solid snap, by the way. And there you have the Daikai Shinken-Oh. I've decided that I was mistaken earlier when I made the statement that the Ebi Origami is big, because the Daikai Shinken-Oh absolutely wipes the Ebi Origami when it comes to mere shelf presence. Notice the new Shiba clan symbols to either side of the actually rather nice face. I like that face. Which takes care of the fact that the Shinken-Oh's Shiba clan symbol is no longer visible. I forgot to mention earlier that this is the only holographic sticker which was pre-applied on the entire toy. The Ebi Disc has its own decal, of course. Anyways, you know about this. The arms are unchanged. I will say, though, that It's been a while since I've had to point out such a brazen bit of kibble sticking out on a Super Sentai Robo. You don't have to talk about kibble very often, but there it is. It's huge. It doesn't even snap onto anything on the what's that called? Shishi origami. All it attaches to is the Daikai-Oh's torso sections here, and that's it. It doesn't even attach to the Shishi. So this has a tendency to be a little loose. Okay? Okay. The Saru and Kame origami are relegated to simply holding the lobster swords. Take this out. And this as well, because if it's not holding the lobster swords, then, well, it's just more kibble. It's just useless kibble. And since I'm in the area, the reason I say the Saru origami has problems hanging onto the lobster swords is because the lobster swords fit just fine into the hands of the Daikai Shinken-Oh, but just for some reason, that one doesn't like it. By the way, I forgot to mention, of course I'm going to demonstrate with the one that gives me the most problems. You do have the option to, how far back can I go? Flip the sword all the way up, or flip it all the way down, although it does bump into the leg armor here, so down is a little more preferable. But anyways, officially they're supposed to stick outwards like that. I'll stick this in here. The legs are where things start getting a little more interesting. And I noticed a little earlier that the symbol on the upper leg here, because this is the knee, technically this is the knee right here, and this is part of the upper leg. This shape here, whatever it is, it's molded in, is actually different from this one over here. I don't know why, but they are distinctly different from each other. I don't know why that is, but whatever. Now, unfortunately, the Daikai Shinken-Oh does not have any unique sound effects to itself. However, if your fingers are small enough, you can still reach in here and mode switch. And I actually prefer to leave it in Minami mode because you can use the dual lobster sword sound effect. And so that is it for the Daikai Shinken-Oh. I already reviewed the Ika Tenku Buster when I reviewed the Ika Origami several months ago. However, at the time I was not planning on getting a DX Daikai-Oh. But I wanted to do this anyways because I want to emphasize that this is actually how the Ika Tenku Buster is supposed to be displayed. It's supposed to be displayed with Daikai Shinken-Oh just like this. However, one of the two big complaints that I had with the Ika Tenku Buster remains to this day. And that is that the Ika Tenku Buster is not attachable, cannot be attached to the Daikai Shinken-Oh, or rather the Daikai Shinken-Oh cannot be attached to the Ika Tenku Buster. There's nothing back here. You can nestle the Daikai Shinken-Oh up as close as you want to, but those hands just don't get anywhere near it. Now, as I said in my original review with the Ika Origami and thus the Ika Tenku Buster, I wish there had been some sort of a handle or something. You know, maybe the Kajiki Origami's tail had formed some sort of a handle. You could hang onto it from behind and kind of direct it around like a powered lawnmower or something like that. It's just an example. I wish it had done that. But unfortunately, this is the best that you can do with the Ika Tenku Buster. And that is it for the Daikai Shinken-Oh.